What's going on, guys? We're back, and it's been a good 7 months in with the brand new Canon EOS R5c, my new A camera. I've done already a good amount of work with this camera here. Right now, I just want to do this video, just kind of showing just a crash course of like the autofocus, um, more so the color profiles in this camera, and most importantly, we're focusing on the false color waveform and kind of just exposing the different color profiles within this camera here. So this is going to be not too technical and in depth, but just kind of like a crash course, really. So hope y'all enjoy it. This photo right here, you see, I'm in my basement, and I'm the one that's sitting down. If you don't know who I am or what I look like by now, and that's my friend Rashad. He actually was there. I'm training him on cinematography with his cameras. He has a Sony A7 IV and a Sony FX30. But the footage that you're going to see is just me, really, and my daughter. I used the RavenEye, DJI RavenEye, to capture HDMI out of the pretty much the view of the R5c. So you get to see pretty much all the settings, what's on the actual LCD screen. So that's pretty cool. I actually had the RavenEye for since 2021, and I never thought about actually just using the RavenEye standalone just for my cameras. You actually can use the RavenEye outside of using the gimbal, and I have the RS2 again that I bought in 2021. So here we are. I have my sweet, beautiful daughter. It's my oldest daughter, Kyra. She's in the shot. All right, so if you take a look to the left of my screen here, and you see where it says CP10. So for Canon, that stands for color picture or color profile. Sony goes by PP, picture profile. And so what this means for your manufacturer, your camera, is you get to select and change the different color profiles or picture profiles. And when you do that, you're changing the dynamic range within each color profile, and also you're changing the gamma curve, and you're also changing the color gamut, how wide the color space. So right now I'm in CP10. That's Canon 709, and right underneath of that it says BT 709. That's the color space I'm recording in right now, which is BT 709. So if you look to the right at the waveform, we can see where the levels of the exposure are falling. I exposed it pretty good. You can see at 80% was the highest value, which was her forehead. But as you see right now, I just switched to CP5. I switched to another color profile. This is standard 709. You see how it got brighter. Mind you, I didn't change the ISO, I didn't change the base or anything like that. Well, the base changes per profile. Each picture profile has its own base ISO. But you see how the levels changed. It was pretty hot. You can see like now at the waveform, the highlights are just under 100%. So she's pretty hot right now. The exposure is pretty hot, exposed to the right. That just goes to show you the dynamic range in this profile compared to the last one is less. It is less dynamic range. Meaning like, you're closer to clipping highlights in a picture profile that has less dynamic range. Now I just switched here to CP1. This is Canon's YDR, dynamic range. Wide dynamic range. This is one of the best color profiles in the R5c that they have next to C-Log 3. as you can see, looking at this compared to the last one, look at her face. It's more smoothed out. There are there's not any like hot spots on her face. Hot, when I mean hot, I mean like kind of like it's a little bit overexposed, a little bit exposed to the right. Um, Her face is a little bit more, the highlights is a little bit more flatter to like the midtones. That just means that the dynamic range is greater, and so the highlights aren't so hot. And you can even see on the waveform how it just went down from 100, the hot areas, and the value went down from 100 down to close to about 80. So again, I didn't change the aperture, I didn't change the ISO, and I didn't change the base ISO. But again, the base ISO will automatically change each time you change the color profile, because each color profile has its own native ISO. So, but when you see that change in the exposure in your shot, when you change your color profile or your picture profile, you're really seeing the change of the gamma curve, the dynamic range, and you're also seeing the change. Well, if you change your color space, mine is stayed in BT 709, so the color space never changed. So just kind of showing y'all this 3 different color profiles. I went from, all right, down here. If I talk right there, it's kind of like an interview setup. I'm talking off camera. Right now we're in the color picture profile of 1, which is 709 YDR, Y dynamic range. It's the best non-log picture profile we can film in. I did expose this. Hold on. I did expose this with false color and zebras, and I'm going to show you those to show you how you can properly expose. So right now you see we're at the base ISO of 400. We have 2 base ISOs. I'm at the first lower base ISO of 400, and we're actually filming at ISO 400 too. So we're filming at the base ISO. This is giving the most dynamic range and the most clean footage, less noise. So let me go ahead and show you what this look like with these zebras. Alright, so I just turned on the waveform. You can see on the waveform where you see right here where it's at 60%. In the middle, that peak in the middle there on 60%, that is pretty much where my skin, all of my skin is falling right here at 60%. And this peak that's up here, that's maybe look like it's at 70%, is see. So my highlight is at like just over 60%, but majority of my skin tone is right here at 60%. So that's where most of my skin tone is, and then that's where my highlight is. So highlights not blown, not clipped, but more so they're also in the proper value as well. Let me turn on the stop color. Let me turn on the false color so you can see where the false color. All right, you can see that the green area is 18% middle gray, and pink area is one stop over 18% middle gray. So the highlight on my face is at one stop over 18% middle gray. And then right around that is at right here, all of my cheeks, 18% middle gray, where the highlight being right here. So this is proper, and my skin tone is darker than Caucasian, so using a false color to properly expose. And you see back here, over here rather, it's showing like loss of detail in the black, but that's cool because it's a black backdrop. So now let me show you how I set my zebras. I have two zebras. I set my first zebras to actually be at the exact IRE and exposure value of 18% middle gray. So right where you see this green, you're going to see my zebras. I'm going to show you those. Okay, boom, got my zebras on, and my zebras are falling right where the 18% green was falling at, which is right here on my cheek. You see it right here on my cheek. On my cheek. That's where the 18% middle gray is falling. And you see how the 18% middle gray comes around this, that's over 18. Remember, this right here is pink. This is one stop above 18%. So I have my zebras set exactly where 18% value falls on my skin. So now I can use my false color, or I can use my zebras to help me expose for 18% middle gray on my subject's face. So there you go. This is pretty much how you would do it. Yeah. So just to show you, I'm going to turn the zebras off. So you have waveform, you have false color, and you have zebras. Those are your best exposure tools, false color being the highest one, because I pretty much found out where to set my zebras based off of the false color. So just want to show y'all that. It's a little tutorial. I'm using the RavenEye on my camera, which is so awesome. I highly recommend it. I'll probably do a little video just talking about the RavenEye. It's old. It's not even new. It's like maybe 4 years old. 3 years old actually, maybe. But yeah, it's still awesome. So you can actually go to find your zebras right here under assistant functions. You see I had the value at 35 plus percent, plus 5%. And so that in this picture profile here, which is CP1 YDR, the zebras land perfectly where the 18% middle gray falls in the false color. And the awesome thing about this camera, it has two zebras, so you can have one set up to where clipping is, and then you can have your other zebras set to middle gray, 18% middle gray. So zebras is awesome. You got three powerful exposure tools. False color is your most dominant, most necessity when it comes to tools for exposure. It's almost hard to underexpose or overexpose or clip the highlights in your image if you are using false color. And then you can properly set up your zebras and let your zebras use your zebras. But second, I would say waveform. Waveform is very informational. It's not like a histogram. It's way better than a histogram. And so these, just showing y'all some of these exposure tools here, which are three of them: false color, zebras, and waveform. So here I just switch color profile again. This is actually my C-Log 3 with a LUT that I imported into my camera. So this is my C-Log 3 with a LUT, and right now it's underexposed because I have to raise up the ISO. The ISO is below the base ISO, so I'm going to raise it up in a second. But because this C-Log 3 has a LUT on it, you'll see that when I color grade it, I bring the blacks down, and I just kind of bring it more into a Rec 709 space, with the colors popping, so it could be pretty much like deliverable ready. So in a second, I'm going to raise up this exposure, because the base ISO for C-Log 3 is 800 and the second base is 3200. So you want to kind of be closer to your base ISO, if not a little bit over, but not really under, because then you're going to introduce noise if you try to raise up your shadows. Alright, so yeah, I just raised up the ISO to 800, which is the base ISO for this color picture profile. And I wouldn't go up to 1600, because then the highlight of the light on my forehead would get a little too hot. So I'm just going to keep it at 800. But if you look on the zebras and then with the false color, it's at proper exposure. The places where my cheeks are at 18% middle gray. So it's just the LUT that I put on here is a very aggressive LUT. It is kind of more punchy, is rich with the colors, and it did decrease some of the dynamic range, but it really brought the C-Log 3 into a 709 space for a very crunchy, dark type of cinematic look. So you know, you can use your log footage, in Canon's case C-Log 3, to really grade the type of look you want. You can, you know, go for the widest dynamic range, or you can kind of use some of that dynamic range to kind of create more of a punchy and crunchy type of cinematic look. So that's kind of what I went for right here. Alright, so for a good comparison, here is Canon 709 CP10 again. I did shift the light a little bit more frontal, but you see how neutral the gamma curve and like the you can see like the highlight looks even more a little bit hot now compared to the C-Log 3. Even with the LUT on it, it looked a little bit more cinematic with the skin tone and a little bit more control with the highlight. So even with the LUT on it, the LUT that really kind of ate up some of that dynamic range. But so just kind of show you a little bit of that contrast. I'll show some other picture profiles here in a second, so y'all can kind of just look at the difference between them and just see the variety that you get, you know, with the R5c. And as well as if you got Sony or if you got Panasonic, just go through the different color profiles, picture profiles, and, you know, see which one yields the most dynamic range, which one produces, you know, the widest color gamut, which one has better colors, and etc. And on a side note, if you do photography, I took these stunning photos of myself with the EOS R5c. Well, that's pretty much it, guys. Subscribe, like the video, more content coming soon. Peace.